Hello, English 4 students, and welcome to your And Then There Were None project, thematic project, your final for the And Then There Were None. This is not your final. We'll have another video about your final, but this is your penultimate assignment in this class. So your second to last assignment that you will have to do for this class. So let's dive in and talk about your And Then There Were None theme project. So, here's what I want you to do. A thematic statement is a piece of media that has a thematic statement is what a piece of media has to say about an idea. For the past month, the piece of media that we have been studying has been And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This novel explored a plethora of ideas. For this project, I want you to select one of those ideas, explain what Christie has to say about it using text evidence to support your claim. Keep in mind, I'm wanting you to look at what idea the entire novel has to say. So you'll need to refer to events that have happened throughout the novel to help support your claim. Now, you can do any of the following for your project. You can write an essay, you can make an infographic, you can present a speech, you can create a video, make a poster, or create a podcast. The project can really be anything. All I ask is if you choose an option not listed above, you run them by me first. Your project will have an introduction, a body, and conclusion. Now, I'll go much more in depth with this here in just a moment with a PowerPoint. But in a nutshell, here's what I'm asking you to do. The introduction. In this part of your project, you'll introduce us to the idea that you chose and the thematic statement that Christie is making about that idea, the latter of which will be your thesis statement. And then in your body, in this part, you'll provide evidence and an explanation of how the evidence proves the thematic statement. And then your conclusion. To wrap up your project, you'll discuss why the thematic statement you chose is relevant and important for our society today to consider. So there we go. You're picking a thematic state. You're telling us what is the thematic statement that Agatha Christie is trying to make with this particular novel. Now let's go a little bit more in depth. Let's go dive in, and I have a PowerPoint that should hopefully help unlock things and help you with the composition or the composing of this particular project. So you should hopefully be seeing my PowerPoint right now. A thematic statement versus topics. Now, what I'm wanting is a thematic statement. What I want is a theme. And a theme is a lesson the reader learns from the text, a universal truth that is always written as a statement. Life decisions can be hard. Life has many roads. Regret can stifle life. Courage can be seen in unlikely people. That is stuff I'm looking for. A topic is one or two broad words: choices, regret, journeys, adventure, love, happiness, empathy, isolation, courage. Those are topics, and they might look familiar because, keep in mind, throughout this whole process, I've been having you write those 200-word prompts over each and every chapter. Those 200-word prompts are about an idea or a topic that you could go with. Are not themes. These are ideas. These are topics that can grow, turn into themes. So yes, I would highly recommend you go back, look through all these that you've written and kind of see the ideas that keep popping up over and over and over again. And you could use those to help generate your thematic statement. But let's turn your word, your topic, into a thematic statement. Let's turn it into a theme. Let's grow it into a theme. It's pretty easy. So this isn't to say that topics are bad. You need them to help create your thematic statement. In fact, like if we go back up here and look at these thematic statements, life decisions can be hard. Decisions is the central theme that it grew out of. Life has many roads. Life was the central theme that it grew out of. Regret can stifle life. Regret was the initial one-word topic that it grew out of. And in fact, we're not going to list it because I just showed you a list of, I think, 15 different ones that you could go work with. Now, in order to turn those one-word themes, so in order to turn these ideas into themes, all you have to do is the following. All you have to do is insert the topic / idea into the following phrase and complete the sentence. The author believes that, so Agatha Christie believes that justice is blah, 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 blah. Agatha Christie believes that evil is blah, 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 blah. Agatha Christie believes that isolation is blah, 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 blah. How you complete that sentence is essentially your thematic statement. Agatha Christie believes that blah, 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 blah. That part, that blah, 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 is your thematic statement, your theme. Now, real quick, a real quick warning for you. In fact, here, there we go. You need to make sure that your thematic statement isn't vague. What is vague? Something like justice is important. That's vague. Something like isolation is bad. It's still vague. Justice is good. Still vague. Complexity is key here. If you have a vague thematic statement, then ask the question why is important? Why is evil bad? Why is isolation bad? Why is justice good? Those are different things that you could go with. Why is judgment good? Answering that why gives you the thematic statement that you are looking for. Now, real quick, make sure you don't get weighed down by the novel. Your thematic needs to be universal, so it needs to be able to be transferred from work, and most importantly, be transferred from the book to your life. You're not necessarily going to end up in this exact situation, but the lesson that you can take away from it can help you with your overall life. All you have to do in order to turn your topic into the thematic statement, one word idea, put it in Agatha Christie believes that, and you a good theme. Now, that thematic statement will be your thesis statement. A thesis statement clearly states the topic of the composition. It not only helps focus the main point of the essay by stating what it will prove with your paper, but gives the reader an exact understanding of what will be covered. The thesis statement declares your own unique perspective, your take on the subject, not the internet's, not your friends, what you think. You'll be technically writing what are called literary thesis statements because it's about a book, a piece of art. And so your literary thesis statements will include the author's name and the title of the work. So yours will include Agatha Christie and then there were none. Here are a couple of examples that you could work that show you do this. In a separate piece, John Knowles portrays jealousy as an element of friendship. In a separate piece, John Knowles illustrates how a person creates his or her own peace. A separate piece by John Knowles illustrates the destructive results caused by distrust. So instead of a separate piece by John Knowles, it would be, and then there were none by Agatha Christie. And then the last half would be your thematic statement that you came up with. This is just to show you that you don't always have to start off with the title and the author. You can, at the end, you can flip the sentence around if need be. Now let's talk about your introduction, the introduction to this thing. So I would recommend starting off by discussing the idea central to your thematic statement in general. So for idea you chose, taught this in your own words, explain what that idea is. Then you include relevant background information, settings, specific characters, plot, summary, etc. And then the last sentence of this paragraph should be your thesis statement, the thing that you created right here. Let's look at an example. The first one, discuss the idea central to your thematic statement in general. Their idea is empathy. So they're going to start off talking about empathy in general. Empathy is a virtue that not all people have. To be able to understand other people's feelings, motives, or situations takes a lot of effort since we live in a judgmental society. In their own words, that's what he is. They're going to get a little bit more specific. Right here, they're going to provide a brief one synopsis of what the book was about. Anne Frank, who was a young Jewish girl, went for 3 years trying to escape being killed by the Nazis during World War II. And they explain what the book was. Then they pivot the book towards empathy. Under dire circumstances, Anne showed empathy in her many diary entries. That's all you have to do in your introduction. You're not going to go over in depth just what your body is for. You're just going to kind of start pushing us towards how this book talks about this idea. And then your thesis statement. Anne Frank, the Diary of a Young Girl, shows that empathy can exist in horrific conditions. Bam. Empathy was their one word. They grew it into how it can exist in horrific conditions. This is their body paragraphs. They would have a paragraph for bringing out the best and worst in people, empathy being a struggle for teenagers, and understanding yourself is important for understanding others. Each of these would be supported with evidence from the text and an explanation of how that evidence shows that particular reason that they're throwing out there. This is an outline. An outline is very similar to a foursquare. It's just straight up and down instead of 4 different boxes. The reason why this is up here is mainly because of this, the conclusion. Here's how I want you to do your conclusion. You wrap up your essay by showing your theme in our society today. Summarize the main points of your body and restate your thesis in a slightly different way. So summarize the main points of your body, Restate your thesis in a slightly different way. Most importantly, show your theme in our society today. That is the most important one. In fact, here's an example. Courage is a quality that is evident in many characters in To Kill a Mockingbird. That's the restated thesis, slightly different, but still has the same idea at the center of it. Whether it comes from an unlikely character like Boo Radley or more traditional protagonists like Atticus, courage is a vital part of what drives them. They summarize the main things they talked about in their body paragraph right there. And now let's end it. This quality is not just important in the famous novel written in the 1950s, but is seen every day in our world today. The soldiers who have fought for our country through all the wars in history have shown a great amount of courage. They choose to put their life in danger for all Americans who are total strangers to them. Courage is within everybody and can appear at the most unlikely time. So they ended it by saying, here's how courage exists in today's society. All right, so that's all I have for you for today. This is due on April 30th, so a week from today. This is when the And Then There Were None final will be due. Soon I'll be coming on to talk to you about your final, which will be due on May 7th. But that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, please email me, pdavidson@portugal.k12.mo.us, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.